What is up, Yankee fans? I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees, and in today's video, we're going to be catching you guys up on some of the early offseason rumors from the GM meetings. Now, the GM meetings take place very early into the offseason, not too far after, official free agency begins, where players from other teams that are free agents can now sign with whoever they'd like. They can negotiate with whatever they'd like. There was some early action in terms of some moves. Jorge Soler was traded to the Los Angeles Angels. Kyle Hendricks also signed with the Angels. So there was some interesting stuff, but none of the heavy hitters have signed yet, and I don't expect them to sign in the next day or so. But there is some stuff to talk about. We're not going to talk about Juan Soto, and that's mostly because any rumors you've heard over the last 2 or 3 days have been, very... for lack of better terms, non-informative, right? Juan Soto is prioritizing money. He enjoyed his time at the Yankees, and the Yankees view him as number one priority. I could tell you guys that, I could have told you guys that in October 1st. I could have told you guys that on August 1st, if I'm being honest. So I'm not really going to address all that stuff because there's nothing of substance there. But with that being said, make sure you guys check us out on your various favorite social media platforms, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or of course this YouTube page. Links are all in the description, all under the handle at Fireside Yankees, except for Instagram, where it's at fireside.yankees. And with that being said, let's get started talking about the first rumor, which was sparked by Brian Cashman himself when he was talking in the GM meetings about Gleyber Torres. Now, in those conversations, he had mentioned that he is not going to speak about the things a player does poorly, and he mentioned that, he expects Torres to have a market, and that he also kind of disclosed some of his lanes or avenues to kind of replenishing the second base position. Obviously, he didn't close the door on Gleyber Torres. He specifically mentioned that door is open for a potential reunion. That's a solution right there. He mentioned potentially importing a player, whether that's, acquiring someone in the free agent market or through the trade market. But one of the interesting things he mentioned was that if they were to acquire a third baseman, that would be a possibility because they could just move Jazz to second base. That does put Jazz moving to second base on the table, and I think opens up the Yankees to beyond just the second base market. Furthermore, he mentioned infield prospect Caleb Durbin as a potential option to fill out second base. He's had an excellent Arizona Fall League. He's just 2 stolen bases shy of breaking the AFL record and has an OPS over 900 in his AFL action. He is one of the more interesting prospects in the Yankees roster and could end up making their 40-man roster this winter when the Rule 5 draft protection situation gets sorted out, and he could win a job in spring training, as Aaron Boone spoke very highly of him this past season during spring training, and the organization seems to view him favorably. Cashman also sparked the second set of rumors we're going to talk about, and that has to do with Pete Alonso, who Cashman himself mentioned he had checked in on and discussed a little bit with Boris. I don't view this as anything other than doing due diligence, right? When you're on the phone with Scott Boras, which we all know Juan Soto is the biggest priority here, you're going to ask about Pete Alonso. The Yankees were terrible at first base. They had a 76 WRC plus and negative 1.1 F4 from the position, and Pete Alonso is pretty good. I mean, this year he had a 122 WRC plus and 34 home runs with a 2.1 F4. Those are solid numbers for first baseman, but the problem is not that you're going to try to go out and get a pretty good player, but the fact that this is a pretty good or kind of good player asking for superstar money. And in the nicest way possible, Pete Alonso is no longer a superstar. This year, he had the lowest F4 of any full 162-game season of his career, had the second lowest WRC plus of his career at 122. His lowest was in 2023 at 121. I know in 2020 he had a lower WRC plus, but that's a 57-game sample size. I just don't feel comfortable using that as his career low season, and it was also the COVID year. I mean, there were a lot of weird things that happened. He's not hitting the baseball as hard as he did in some of his peak years. His ability to swing in zone or aggressiveness swinging in zone seems to have regressed. His outs above average and fielding run value hit a new low this season at first base. He'll be 30 years old this December. He's not getting any younger, and he's just good. He's not great. His on-base skills aren't great. This is the kind of guy who profiles more of like an Anthony Santander than a superstar. And Anthony Santander is going to get paid, but he's not going to get, 5 years, $130 million. He might get 4 years at like $75 million. And at that price point, I think anyone would like Pete Alonso, but I don't think Pete Alonso is going to settle for that money. So, right now, I just don't think it makes sense for the Yankees to extend a long-term contract to Pete Alonso. I think they're aware of that. I don't think the Yankees are heavily pursuing Alonso, as some may kind of initially perceived this as. It's just due diligence, but I don't think it makes sense for the Yankees. I don't think it makes sense for Alonso. It's not, officially ruling them out of anything further with Alonso, but it's more so to say it just doesn't pass the sniff test, right? Like, it passes the test of due diligence, but this idea that they're going to heavily pursue him, it just doesn't really make sense. Like, aging first baseman in their 30s from the right-handed side who has seen his offensive production go down in the last 2 years, that's just not the kind of guy the Yankees should be going after, especially with his defensive abilities declining the way that they have. Moving on from Pete Alonso, John Morosi discussed that the Yankees are one of the most aggressive teams in terms of pursuing bullpen help. Now, bullpen help will be an interesting conversation for the Yankees, not just because, you always want to improve your bullpen, but because the Yankees have some pretty serious names hitting the free agent market. Clay Holmes, Tim Hill, Tommy Kahnle, they'll all be free agents after the 2024 season. They're free agents right now, so, the Yankees are going to have to find ways to replenish their value. They were all critical to the Yankees' run to the World Series, and I expect that Cashman will have to do, a couple of things to get that bullpen back in shape, although I do trust his ability to put the bullpen together. I don't really have concerns or doubts on that front. Some of the names that Morosi mentioned included Carlos Estevez, who was with the Los Angeles Angels and Philadelphia Phillies. He put up a 2.45 ERA, and he struck out 50 batters in 55 innings of work. I'm not gung-ho about Carlos Estevez. The strikeout rates aren't super high. It's not like he completely avoids damage contact as well. He got barreled 10.1% of the time this year. I don't view him as the kind of pitcher that I would be bending myself over backwards to acquire. I wouldn't pay top dollar for him. I know that he racked up a bunch of saves. In fact, he racked up 26 saves this year, and he racked up 31 the year prior, but I haven't seen a consistent track record of him missing a ton of bats, being that A-plus reliever, being that guy that the Yankees should really invest a lot of money into. So I would say if Estevez is looking for a shorter-term deal, like a smaller deal, sure, but I don't envision that happening, and I don't see the Yankees being a great fit for him because of it, because he's going to make a lot of money, and I don't think he's a lot of money kind of reliever, so yeah, I'd avoid him. Tanner Scott doesn't have the qualifying offer attached to him. He's someone else that Morosi mentioned. Now, he's someone who's a little more up my alley. His command regressed this year. He went from walking 7.8% of batters faced to 12.2% of batters faced, but he still had a 1.75 ERA, a 50% ground ball rate, and a 28.6% strikeout rate. He improved with the San Diego Padres. He had a 2.73 ERA, which was higher than what he had with the Marlins, but his walk rate dipped to 8%. His ground ball rate increased. The underlyings were a lot better. His stuff is gross. He's got a ridiculous fastball, an unbelievable slider. He is, for lack of better terms, the definition of a dominant reliever. This is a guy who's going to get paid. He doesn't have the qualifying offer attached to him. You don't have to worry about losing draft compensation. And honestly, he's worth it. He's that good. He is that guy. I don't think the Yankees should be the team that pays him, $17, $18 million a year for the next 3-4 years. But whoever will, assuming that they have the financial capital to do so, will probably greatly benefit from it. He's a great pitcher. He's a great reliever. I honestly, it's just a matter of, can the Yankees really afford to pay Tanner Scott and Juan Soto and then replenish themselves at first base and, maybe even the rotation. So, I'm just kind of I don't know if Tanner Scott's going to be in the Yankees' price range, but my God, is he a great reliever. This is no, detriment of his skill, or this is no degradation of his skill level, or, a referendum on his lack of talent. This is just more so where the Yankees' priorities are and what their financial situation is. I think somebody who could actually end up being a Yankee and fit into their price range is Jeff Hoffman, who pitched with the Philadelphia Phillies over the last 2 years and was absolutely dominant. This year he had a 2.17 ERA. He struck out 33.6% of batters faced, a 0.81 home runs per 9. His stuff is brilliant. He's got a power fastball. He's got a great slider, a great splitter, a sinker. He could be a starter. He was a starter coming up with the Rockies for a while, but he's got, top-end reliever stuff. Him and Luke Weaver would be arguably the best reliever duo in the American League. These guys are sick. Hoffman's got the righting fastball. He's got the dominant swing and miss stuff. He's got experience as both a closer and a setup man. I know he bombed in this year's postseason, but he was excellent in the previous postseason year in which the Philadelphia Phillies made a run to the World Series, so I'm not particularly concerned about his ability to pitch in big situations, nor should the Yankees be. He's just really damn good. That's the best way for me to put this. He is really, really damn good at baseball, and I think the Yankees should at least be checking in on what his price tag would be. Morosi mentioned him as well. Those are the three guys who are obviously going to be at the top of any team's bullpen wish list, but I think Hoffman might be the most realistic one. Speaking of three pitchers, it was reported by John Heyman that the Yankees checked in on three of the biggest aces on the market in Blake Snell, Corbin Burnes, and Max Fried. Now, spoiler alert, I don't think the Yankees are going to land either of the three if they have plans on landing Juan Soto. Burnes is going to require a multi-year deal, a longer-term deal. Same with Fried. Snell could command one after the year he's had. And there are going to be plenty of bidders for Blake Snell, who doesn't have the qualifying offer attached to him, including the New York Mets. I expect every team, honestly, that needs rotation help and has the money to aid the rotation to look into Blake Snell. He was unbelievable this year. As for Corbin Burnes, it would be awesome to have Soto and Burnes. I just don't see it happening. Burnes pitched for the Baltimore Orioles in the AL East. He was dominant. He was untouchable. He was remarkable. He didn't end up winning the Cy Young because Tariq Skubal had a better year, but Burnes showed himself to be, one of the 5 or 6 best pitchers in the entire sport. As for Max Fried, he made 29 starts this year. He was really strong. He has the best ERA for any starting pitcher with at least 500 innings pitched since 2020. And look, he's a great ground ball pitcher. His stuff has only improved as he's gotten older. His command is remarkable. His walk rates are low. He gets enough strikeouts. He's just a damn good pitcher. I just think all these pitchers are going to be priced out of the Yankees' price range if they were to sign Juan Soto. Now, if they weren't, and that would be a nightmare scenario in my eyes, I think the Yankees would be interested at least signing one of these guys to, kind of boost their rotation and maybe move one of their starters for an impact bat. But with that being said, that covers all the rumors we've gotten from the GM meetings thus far. If you guys, if there's anything that you guys really find that stands out to you or that you think the Yankees should heavily pursue, let us know in the comment section below. How do you feel right now? How do you feel with the Yankee offseason? I know not much has happened. Not anything has happened, if we're being honest, but how do you feel they'll do this winter? How confident are you that they'll re-sign Soto? All that stuff and more. We'd love to hear your voices and your opinions in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed today's video and watched to the end, thank you so much. Make sure you like and turn on that notification bell so that you guys can check out our next videos and subscribe as well. And of course, you guys can check us out on various social media platforms on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and of course this YouTube page. EmpireSportsMedia.com is where you have all of our written content, and at Ryan Garcia ESM is my personal Twitter account. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.
Perfect.